Welcome aboard everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. Today's video, IOTX. Guys, before we go into the chart, we're going to look at some top drilled down information from IOTX in the last week or so since our previous video. So guys, IOTX is one of our favorite bags here. We identified this earlier in the year as our IoT gem in AI as well. Of course, there's a multitude of other different platforms like it as well, like IOTA, for example, Fetch AI, Matrix AI, which we do hold all of those as well. But my point being around IOTX, because I do think the price point is very, very juicy. But we'll go into that in a bit more detail as to why we think that once we look at a bit more detail right now as some top level information here. So guys, first things first, US Navy to pilot blockchain-based project to improve medical supply lines. Now, we talk about AI projects like IOTX and like IOTA on a multitude of different levels, okay? And when we're talking about the aspect of supply chain mechanism, we're talking about the AI algorithm of everything. So when eventually we have like health chips within us, which are coming, don't worry about it, it's definitely on the cards, and all these things, as well as kind of like a temporary measure at the moment is like the Pebble device that we've covered with IOTX quite recently, is this whole tracking aspect of being integrated within you to formulate data on your health situation on a 24/7 basis. This will then help with things like the supply chain mechanism in the long chain aspect of it, if you like. So where, for example, you may need some medical attention, an ambulance or whatever could be ordered to your house before you even know that you're ill, that kind of thing. But in obviously the military, and in particular this conversation around the US Navy, of course, every soldier counts, right? And every naval person counts. So what we got here is the US Navy has signed a 1.5 million contract with Consensus Networks to develop a blockchain-enabled logistics system named HealthNet back in May. Okay, so this project, built on Internet of Things focused blockchain IOTX, is halfway complete, counting down the days for the pilot scheduled early 2022. So next year, guys, there's going to be a lot of projects where we talk about winter markets and bear markets. I generally believe there's going to be a multitude of them that just perhaps go away from that whole cycle effect and will continue to grow. Because I think we're in a very big adoption stage for a lot of these crypto assets in terms of technological advancements and requirements in the world. But I'm looking forward to seeing how this sort of integrates furthermore. So here we talk about predicted that the medical industry is poised to renew its systems within blockchain-based solutions. So very much around that aspect of tracking medical suppliers, aspects of patients in terms of what's required for the patient in general, all on an automated kind of supply and demand mechanism. Okay, so there's some really good things going on there and really interesting. Now, this is just a very small piece of the puzzle of what IOTX is very much capable of in the future. We talked about things like play to earn, or activity to earn. So, running and things like this being rewarded for your resulting behaviors or actions within the world, utilizing their kind of data and infrastructure with IoT and AI. And of course, IoT being Internet of Things means that anything and everything connected to the internet is therefore providing data to this system. So this can very much be anything and everything you can think of, to smartphones, kettles, dishwashers, whatever you think, all being on an integrated system. And that includes things like EV cells, of which what is worth definitely looking at is this recent video of the Twitter side of IOTX, where they integrate with Mobi, EPNs, and Now payments to really emphasize the aspect of a full economic system when it comes to transportation and mobility. So linking together with that US naval aspect that we talked about, it's about bridging anything and everything together to be more automated, more data-driven, and essentially what we're doing right now is teaching machine to take over. Now, that could be from an employment perspective. It could be from the automation of transportation, agriculture, fuel, supply, demand, your purchasing on your behalf due to trust mechanisms within blockchain and things like this. So there's loads of really interesting things that can come out of this, guys. And I do recommend going on the Mobi website, because these guys are phenomenal partnerships with loads of different automotive companies, of course, that you will know and love across the world. Interestingly, IOTA and IOTX obviously listed on there, as well as a couple of other projects that are really interesting. Ocean, of course, very big in AI right now. Got Ripple in terms of bridging and finance aspects. So there's a multitude of big companies here. And what I like about this is you're now linking big companies that are well known over the last however many decades, now linking with crypto asset related blockchain projects. This is what it's about, guys. This is the end game, is bringing it all together into one system. Obviously, there's not going to always be just one, but there'll be a multitude of different blockchains, different requirements. That's why there's a need for all these different elements to work together and eventually collide in a similar space where transactions are done automatically. You won't even know they're done, and it will just interlace. That's the whole point of blockchain. It's the web 3.0 mechanism. You're talking about blockchain 4.0 and beyond. You're talking about hyperledger systems, including the Hyperledger Foundation, of course, which are very heavily related to most of these assets as well. But I just wanted to emphasize, guys, this is what is kind of coming really for these awesome projects. So where we talked about in the past, for example, you've got like a business meeting, but because of smart contract and know your customer technology in blockchain, everything's dealt for you. Your transportation, the booking of flights, tickets, requirement of any additional items you need because you're out of stock at home, like toothbrush or toothpaste and things like this, all automated within the same system. And eventually, when we have autonomous cars, which will be around the corner as well, we move from that transition of electric cars to stabilize the environment and everything that's going on right now. But the future development, of course, is autonomous. So the fact of no traffic jams, everything's on the smart grid, utilizing things like 4G and 5G for connection purposes, for work purposes, and this, that, and the other. Everything will just be like we saw in the sci-fi films many years ago, right? This is on our doorstep. And finally, one of the key points retweeted from Vodafone IoT is very much, again, the mention around DeFi and GameFi as well as MachineFi coming in. So this is talking about smart devices already present. Obviously, a decade ago, the refrigerator would talk to your home or the cameras and work out what you need to order from your fridge and this, that, and the other. We've got smart integrated systems such as like geofencing, knowing when you're nearly home to then therefore put the kettle on. All of these things, or changing your mood or changing your diets required based on the algorithm within your body. This is just the beginning. This is just very top line things I'm throwing at you in this conversation, but big things are coming. And MachineFi, the rebranding kind of aspect of IOTX recently of the 2.0, is very much around machine will be our world's future workforce. And there's some phenomenal numbers in here. Look at this. By 2030, McKinsey predicts machines will outnumber humans by 10 to 1 and generate more than $12 trillion in economic value. This is something similar that we covered in an IOTA video recently. So it's clearly the similar market trends and information going out there. But look at this mechanism of the real world moving into a trustless system, a machine system, DIDs, digital identities for machines, giving the opportunity to do things on your behalf. And it's all going to be interlaced within these very operable, phenomenal systems that these companies are building. So who will own these billions of machines in the future machine economy? Well, quite simply, it's down to people like you and I, but also, of course, there will be centralized networks as well. This is the thing that concerns me the most in terms of blockchain's capabilities, is you put it in the wrong hands, you may have even worse control than we have already today. That's why it's very important to get involved in these, get involved in potential DAO opportunities or governance opportunities to really make sure that you make a statement and voting aspects of things that happen in the future when it comes to blockchain and technology and life in general moving forward. So go and check this out on DocSend. This is off the IOTX site. You can download it. You have to put your email in, that sort of stuff. But once this becomes capable, of course, you've got metaverse conversations here, transactional aspects. The list is endless, guys. Like, we're so at the beginning. And because of this VR and AR capabilities right now, moving into very much a big adoptive session right now, we are looking at some big changes going on in our world. Which path will you take, centralized or decentralized? But one thing's for sure right now, guys, is I'm very interested in investing in anything related to IoT and AI, as you full well know. Simply because I can see the future. I've worked in the industry of AI and IoT for a number of years now. And interestingly, I can arguably see the future that is coming, hence why I'm massively invested in it. So guys, do consider all these aspects when you're doing your research. Really interesting topics. I do recommend going to read all these documentations if you want to learn more. But that's just some top line stuff from us. Let's jump into the chart to see where IOTX is. So we're using Huobi, whatever, exchange data here. In fact, there's a couple of other different ones on here, BUSD and USDT, depending on which exchange you're using. But in general, guys, the principle is the same. IOTX has had fantastic growth over this year in general. I was buying OTX way back earlier in the year. I think it was round about those sort of 2 cents mark. I think I was purchasing IOTX. Of course, we had some great growth with some various different announcements across along the way. But what I love about this is I always thought it was undervalued. But as we get adoption of these projects and as we get more narrative around these projects, people start to believe in them, of course, more, and then start to invest more. So when we look at something, we say, oh, it's undervalued. When we say undervalued, we mean based on its principle of what it can do in the future. That's my view on it, and that's my perception on it for sure. Now, it's not just a case of going, oh, we think it's going to be $1 at the end of the year, therefore it's undervalued. My principle is that this is undervalued in the grand context of what it's capable of doing over the, not even the next 5-10 years. I'm talking about the rest of our lives, certainly from a generational perspective. And same principle applies to IOTA really, in terms of its price movements, its narratives, its adoption. It's very much ahead of the game because of its Tangle-DAG algorithm, but IOTX for sure is doing its own thing in its own way. And that's what I love about this, different aspects of them, different technologies, different ideas, and ultimately with blockchains to work the way we want it to work, we're going to have all this competition, all these ideas interlacing at some point together, right? So that's the beauty of it. So when we're looking at this chart, guys, what I'm looking at in particular is 2 areas of buy opportunities for IOTX still. I sold a bit of IOTX at the top and I did buy back in just under the 20 cent mark, so I had a bit of a good move on that. I haven't done anything since then because I'm purely waiting for this confirmation of this area right now that we are in. So we see the 3 big tail ups in this chart thus far. You could argue this one as well, but let's just maintain this philosophy here. Around August time, it was around 2 cents, right? We had a big jump up, a bit of a high here to 15 cents, which is absolutely incredible. And this is where we are now. This is why it's a really important area for us at this moment in time, because we are now reflecting on points of resistance that we had in the past. We're now reflecting on areas that we've touched in resistance here on the 4th and 5th of November as well, and also what we went past at these periods of time. We did have a bit of a drop down to around 15-16 cents as well before a nice tail up again with some other announcements and then a drop with correction. So we are floating, in my opinion, a really testing level, and we're going to the RSI and stuff in a minute to go into a bit more detail on that. But right now I'm very interested to obtaining more IOTX and probably doing a bit of DCA, dollar cost averaging, in the sense that I'm happy to buy some now, but I'm also going to hold more bags back just in case there's some drops down here. And we'll look into now why I think these areas are of interest. Well, because we've had these big areas of drive upwards, we can argue that perhaps from these kind of areas, 10 cents or even beyond the 6 cent mark, we're in a big price discovery mode. So we've had the big movements up, but we're now coming back to testing flow areas, which is what we need to do to define support mechanism and very much confidence in these projects moving forwards. Now, irrespective of the bull run, we need to find these areas, because what we don't want to do is see gigantic parabolic runs up like this, because otherwise we're just going to get big drops down, albeit not necessarily short term, but certainly over a longer period of time, we'll see that everyone gets negative and worried about it or misunderstands it. For me, I'm holding IOTX long term. We'll do a staking video for IOTX in the coming days as well. If you're interested in that, let us know in the comments below. We'll definitely get that out this week. But these are my thoughts and opinions on this. I'm going to personally be buying some more IOTX later today at this current price around 15.5 cents. But I have an anticipation that we may come down a bit lower. Could we come back down to this 10 cent mark? That is absolutely possible, because as I mentioned, there's these areas here that really don't show enough data, in my opinion, or opportunity to suggest that we can definitely confirm these as support lines. So my anticipation is that we could potentially come back down here over a shorter period of time, maybe arguably into December, before a tail up. Now, that's not to say that we might define a support area around this 15 cents mark, which is why I'm indicating a few different options for accumulating IOTX. I'm having the ambition that I want to buy some here, just in case we have a support mechanism here and take it upwards, because I do believe massive in this project, and especially as we enter a bull run in the coming months, it is a good opportunity to have a swing around. And we had similar moves back here. They didn't last massively a long time, maybe a 2-month period. And we're seeing a similar pattern here where I see we might tail off as the weeks go by. So these things we need to consider when we're trying to buy in. Let's just pull up this area here on the MACD and the RSI, okay? So this will confirm a few other things. We're still in a selling mode, as you can see on the RSI here and the histogram. Currently in a neutral position on the performance indicator down here on the right hand side. So we're in the middle really of the sell-off wave. So I think there's still a bit more to come. Don't get me wrong, we could go into pale red, which would indicate we're finalizing the sell-off, but at the moment it's not confirmed where we're fully finished yet. So we're in this bearish mode. It's coming in a deep trend downwards because we had this massive parabolic rise. Again, to my point, that we don't want to see too many of these movements because it's not helpful for everyone, especially if you're an investor. But it is obviously great opportunities to have quick profits and sell-offs, right? So there's loads of advantages and disadvantages to these kind of moves. So we're in the middle of this. I do anticipate this to tail off eventually, perhaps in the next week or so, to then encourage a bit of a crossover. But I would like to see something like this region here, where we had the drop down, albeit it's not as steep as this. We had a nice little corrective period of confidence and building up gradually again before another announcement came, blah, 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 the same story. So right now, RSI floating around 48. Ideally for me, position-wise, I would like to see this coming down to maybe 40. So that's why I'm taking an advantage here, because I'm happy to do so. I'm taking that risk. Again, this is not financial advice, just my opinion. But if this starts tailing down over a 14-day one in particular that I use, down to maybe say 44 to 40 mark, I will absolutely be bagging someone, especially if it drops down to 30, 35. That's where I see it coming down to these potential areas in the lower regions towards 10 or 12 cents. Obviously, I don't want to see that. I want to see it continuously grow, but I'm going to take the advantage whenever it is presented to me, of course. So as I said, in the future, I think it's going to be big. So 15 cents is a massive discount for me in my opinion in the long run, but obviously being able to save myself potentially 2 to 5 cents can actually be quite a massive effect in the long run, especially if you're accumulating big numbers like I try to do with this project. So there's a few considerations to think about, guys. Like I said, be cautious investing at these current price points. We might start seeing some stabilization here, and it may take a few days to identify that, then decide if we're moving up or down. And that's where we'll see a middle ground of the RSI before a decision is made on whether we're continuing the bear mode or swinging this background. But at my gut feeling right now is we are going to be dipping down to test these even lower regions over the next few days. But I do believe, of course, as the bull run continues, or we're about to enter, in my opinion, we will start seeing that tailing around at some point in the near future. So I do think this is going to be a quick turnaround one if it does drop down, and it's going to be a quick buy up scenario, because I truly believe there's a lot of confidence in this and a lot of opportunity that people are really going to want to take advantage of. So that's my wrap up really of IOTX. Guys, thanks very much for watching. Let us know in the comments below if you're holding IOTX. Are you staking? What are you doing with it? What's your anticipations for the years to come? Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next IOTX video. Bye-bye.